This week, we're recapping the rest of Gamescom 2023. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
This is a song I wrote about the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Good Game, Bad Game podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who has 1 month to complete Starfield before Phantom Liberty releases. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, are you nervous?
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. So yeah, now I am. Man, I was like, because we both know I'm not going to beat Starfield before Phantom Liberty comes out, and we also know as soon as Phantom Liberty comes out, I'm playing. So yeah, wow.
It's a conundrum to be in because it's one of those. It's one of those situations where Starfield is the hope is that it's very gripping and it has you like fully into it, right? But because again, you know that you're going to how much time are you going to put into Starfield and be certain that it's the game for you, but then need to like step away from it to play Phantom Liberty to then have to go back, because you know how hard it is to go back to, especially a game like Starfield or a game of that magnitude, how hard it is to like go back to. That's tough. That is a tough situation to be in. Rock meet hard place.
There's I feel like the easy answer is I just wait on Phantom Liberty.
You can't.
But yeah, obviously I don't want to do that. There's no part of me that wants to do that.
You're the cyberpunk guy. You can't do that.
Yeah, so I guess I guess it's a good thing I work remote.
Sounds like challenge accepted.
I'm gonna send myself some meeting invites that are like strategically placed throughout the weeks that are just gonna be dedicated like Starfield time.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
And they're saying what? It's like if you just kind of rip through, it's like 100 hours.
That's probably a safe estimation for a Bethesda RPG. I would actually guess. Oh, I don't know, because I just don't know the magnitude of this game, you know? I feel like a typical story for Bethesda takes probably 60 to 80 hours or so, because so much of it's spent like traveling.
And I have no experience in that in terms of Bethesda, because I've only played their linear games.
You also just get side quests
all the way through.
You just get side quests thrown in your face left and right.
Yeah, and like especially when they like show, I think this was last year at Gamescom maybe, that you can have like fans that will follow you around and like help you with things, but they're super annoying.
Yeah.
George and Lenium.
Yep.
Look at the wabbits.
Man, yeah. If it's as robust as I think that like kind of showcased, it's one of those games that you're just gonna get absolutely lost in the sauce. I mean, think of Red Dead Redemption 2. I don't know how much it like grabbed you personally, but like
I literally bought a case of Coors Light, so every time my character had a beer in the game,
you could have a beer. That's awesome. I literally just think about how like the most mundane things of like just going out and hunting or fishing or whatever, and like you just could get so lost in just doing that one thing, and then like next thing you know, you're riding around and some dude is on the side of the road yelling out to you, and you go help him. It's just crazy, you know, like just absolutely absurd. And it really feels like, you know, Starfield's going to be one of those types of games, and Skyrim was certainly like that at times, and Fallout. So, yeah, it's that type of game for sure.
Just like, okay, so here's to add to the conundrum. Do I buy? So Tom Henderson, Inside Gaming. I think it's Insider. Had this really, really, really awesome tip about how to get early access if you have Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And the tip was to buy the expansion. I only bring that up just to state that Tom Henderson's back on my shit list. Because that was about the dumbest fucking thing I ever read, but he got me to click on it, so he got me. No, but I am going back and forth on getting that. So it's you get the base game included with Game Pass, obviously. And I think it's like $35 to add everything that comes in like the Ultimate Edition.
Mm-hmm.
Which I did for Forza Horizon, and was glad I did. So I'm thinking about doing it for Starfield because then that gives me, I can start playing this on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and that gives me a couple extra days. The other thing is I'm gonna have no time this weekend to play it. So
is it worth getting
yeah,
it early to then not really be able to use that like extra time that you're given? Yeah.
right. And I don't think the content that it comes with is really worth a whole lot to me.
Yeah.
I think it's mostly cosmetic. Like if it were adding like future expansion stuff, sure, but
Right.
I
I
think
hear you.
Bethesda generally just puts that in.
Um, Fallout did have standalone expansion.
Was it?
Yeah, so like story expansion and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it is that, but yeah, I don't know. Ultimate Edition sometimes, unless it like declares like the expansion pass or season pass is a part of that, like that then tells me yes, more story content, stuff like that. But if it's just Ultimate Edition and like doesn't say like including season pass, I just assume yeah, it's all cosmetic. Maybe you're given like one bonus mission to start out that nets you like a really good gun early, something like that, but never anything like really all that major. So that is a tough situation though.
Yeah. Or I'll play them both at the same time. Said, well, not me in any seriousness whatsoever.
Ah, that's tough. I can't wait to see how you navigate it. But
It's hard having so many games.
right,
Let me
dude.
go back to the old days of having no games.
Yeah, seriously. I think we need to have like uh, a long discussion, around just how really amazing this year has been in terms of games and how the lineup for the rest of the year,
And
given that it's
into next year.
yeah, yeah, given that it's still August and, we still know of so many games that are coming out and yeah, like into next year even. It's just I mean, it's insane. This has been uh probably one of the best years for games in a while. Like
Right.
probably like end of PS3 360 era, I would say. Because there were a lot of bangers, I feel like, at the end, before it went kind of barren at the start of the next generation. Um, Enough about games that are coming out and how you're going to navigate that. Tell me how you navigated the past week with your games.
Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Bless you.
It was a good one. Um, I traveled this past week,
It's a
so you
fun
know what
game.
that means. Oh, well, generally is. Um, I meant to tell you or text you about this away from the podcast, but I went on a hike this weekend, and it felt like a video game. And I guess we'll talk about this on the podcast. It's kind of related because this was in northern Massachusetts, and it wasn't a long hike, but there was like a stretch of just regular you're walking, and then you get to the section, and it's like you go to the left, and it's just a pit of mud.
Oh,
You
nice.
go straight, and you're going through water, or you go right, and it's a little more roundabout, and then you have to cross the water on a log. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm in a video game right now. And then and that happens like multiple times throughout the hike. And then on the way back, we just got like this flash storm.
Oh, God.
And it was super windy and obviously surrounded by trees. And a tree like broke and fell right behind us. So we had to like run out the rest of the hike, and it was like very much so like Crash Bandicoot Boulder chasing you, and all those obstacles that you had to decide between on the way in. You now have to make a split-second decision on which way you're going.
Yeah, you're going through like an Until Dawn quick time event.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It felt just like that.
That's crazy. That is crazy. That's quite the experience.
Yeah, got the heart going. And I'm happy to say I did it without blowing a hammy.
There you go.
Anytime I exercise and don't do that to win.
There are no
Anyway, so
guarantees in life.
I traveled and brought the Switch and played a bunch of Pikmin 4.
Oh, nice.
And this was, when you get a new game and you play it and you're like, this is fun. Okay, you get through the tutorials and you're like, I can see why people enjoy this. And then you put it down for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because you either have other games or whatever. Well, I made myself sit down and like play an hour of this because we were just kind of hanging out. And in that hour was like when I had that moment of, oh shit, this is a lot of fun.
That is great. I love that.
So that is now like, and it's so brainless. Like, it's such a good, like, just brainless task game. It's very classic. Like, it feels very classic. And I'm really enjoying that. So that's where a lot of my time is going to be the next couple of weeks. Try to beat that before Starfield.
That's awesome.
That being said, it's a good game to have for like when I want to play video games but don't want to think.
And don't have like maybe necessarily like a ton of time. I'm guessing it's fairly easy to like pick up, put down.
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, the Switch is nice because you can just kind of like lock it and come back to it later.
Right.
So, yeah. So I really think that's about all I played this week. I played a lot of Pikmin.
Nice. That's awesome.
Quite enjoying it.
I have a question for you.
I have an answer for you.
So our whole little like 69 platinum thing.
Yes.
Do I need to get 69 on the dot? Am I allowed to go over?
The fact that you're asking me this question infuriates me.
Why?
Because you shouldn't, like, 69 should have been the challenge.
Yeah. No, and it is.
Are you already at 69?
No.
Oh.
No. I was at like 44 last week. No, wait. I have 24 to go? Yeah. I was at like 44 last week. I'm now at 45. So the reason I ask is because I'm doing the whole thing where like as games are leaving PS Plus, I'm like working through them, trying to do stuff like that. And I was thinking about it, and there's going to come a time in like November, for example, where that's getting close to the end of the year. It's getting close to my deadline, and I might have a game. There might be so many games or whatever to like get through, but perhaps I'm at 68 and there's 2 games to get through. And like now I'm going to have to make that decision. And so just to give a quick peek at some of the games that I played this week, Shelby and I were cleaning up, moving out, and I purposely left 1 trophy just in case I'm not allowed to go over the number. Like I'm trying to already play like the long game here and figure out like how to be strategic about this to the best of my ability so I can still
I would say the achievement is you need to get at least 69.
Get at least.
Yes.
Not get exactly. Okay.
No.
Great.
You'll just have to tell me what your 69th trophy was.
Oh, interesting. That plays into it.
Yeah, so I would say yes.
Oh my God. Okay. Now this is also something to think about.
I'll let you interpret that however you would like, but the 69th trophy is significant.
Okay. I think I have in my head which one I'm going to try and make the 69th. Spider-Man 2 comes out this year, and I'm very confident I will play it and beat it within a week. So I think I'm going to try and keep a trophy to make that the 69th.
I hope you pick Spider-Man.
Okay. Uh-oh. Can't wait to see how this bites me.
Like a spider.
like a spider. Yeah. No, great. Okay, cool. Well, this is exciting. This is very fun, and I can't wait to see how this continues to play out. Yes. So I got a platinum in a game through the darkest of times. It's a like political historical game where you are leading a resistance group against like the Nazis during World War II.
Nice.
And it's very interesting. It's just like a strategic type game. It's like there's very little like actual gameplay. It's a lot of just like making decisions to like set up the resistance, stuff like that. It's great. Yeah, I mean, it was like very chill for the most part. And it was honestly like really fun. I've never played a game quite like it. So enjoyed that, and like I said, got the platinum in it. I also finished Deathloop, which you haven't started yet, right?
I have not.
I thoroughly recommend it. It only like the actual like game itself, like just playing through the story missions and all that, probably only took me, I want to say it was less than 15 hours. Like you can
just started that last week or something, right?
Yeah, last week, or maybe I started it 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it like only took me probably about like it didn't take more than 15, I would say. And it's really good actually. Like the concept of it's like really solid. It's fairly well thought out. Honestly not much that I would say in like a first go like what should be different and what should be changed about it, because I felt like they actually nailed it pretty good. And the story is like solid, and there's not, working with time and stuff like that, it's very easy to get plot holes. And honestly, there weren't too many, if any at all. Like they did a really good job of having it buttoned up and like thought out, and the way you like unravel the story as you move on, because you're playing as a character who's been like looping, and there are multiple iterations of your character, and you like learn these bits and pieces, and you kind of have these like oh shit moments kind of left and right. It's really good. And then the whole concept too is that you need to kill 7 people in one day. There's only 4 areas to go to. There's 4 time slots in a day. So you have to like figure out, and everybody is only in one time slot per day. So you have these moments in the morning where there's one person in one area and one person in another area. And you have to like work to figure out how to like mess with the time loop to get them so that they are no longer in those like set positions, and you can like work it so that you go to an area and are able to actually kill like 2 of the people or 3 of the people. And it's so cool. Really well done. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. With that being said, I will not be platinuming it because holy fuck, some of the trophies are so like specific and like tedious that the challenge would be amazing and would be so much fun. But there's no way I'm going to be able to like commit to it and get it done within 2 weeks. So this might be something that like I circle back and like when it's on sale at some point, pick it up and like try and work through. But the challenge is like, one of them is you have to do an entire loop and kill all of like the visionaries, the like specific people you're supposed to, without killing any of like the eternalists, who are like the fodder people basically that are always walking around. And you have to do an entire loop just killing the 7 people, and not killing anybody else. And it's just like, that is, if you get through like the 3rd time, and so like you're in the evening, the final time, and you accidentally kill somebody, like that would destroy me. And I just don't have like the, like, you know what I mean? Like I would love the challenge, but I don't have the ability to like commit to that right now.
It's just the thought of messing it up.
Oh, dude, it ruins me. And like I had started trying, I was like, oh, this actually doesn't seem like that hard. And I was trying just another specific one, not even going for like that one, which I feel like is definitely the hardest one. I was just trying another specific one, and I just like could not get the stuff to like line up perfectly. And I was just like, nah, this is just gonna kill me. Like it's very much a try again, and just like don't have it in my heart right now. So very good game though, highly recommend.
Good to know. I have it downloaded.
And then I also finished Guardians of the Galaxy, just like the story and everything. I haven't cleaned up everything yet, but that was also a really solid game that I would absolutely recommend. Like, this is very fun. The story was great. The mechanics and everything were really well done. Very good game. And I think that's it.
Pretty good week.
Yeah.
Beating a game, you got a platinum, right? You did say that.
Did get a platinum. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. And yeah, now I gotta look ahead at what to jump into next. I have God of War Ragnarok downloaded. So I don't know if that'll be like my next big story game that I jump into. Because I also need to think about, in a month Phantom Liberty comes out, and then in 2 months Spider-Man 2 comes out. So I got to really think ahead of where the time is going to go in terms of story games and stuff like that. It's tough situation to be in.
Yeah, definitely is.
And then on top of all that, we have Gamescom, which announced some games, gave updates on others, and I think there's a decent bit to be excited about. I would love to hear what your thoughts were overall, but to give kind of my take real quick, I thought there was actually some like disappointing parts of it. Like, I feel like this is one of the first times I'm coming out of a showcase or like event type thing with like a couple of true negatives. But then the flip side of that is there was certain things that got me super excited. And this is considering things outside of opening night live. So the one thing that kind of had me a little disappointed is that I didn't feel like there were a ton of like indies showcased. And
I agree.
And so many showcases that we've watched here of late have like all of these like great indie announcements, and I think you and I have really jumped into to like indies full on and really embrace them and try to boost them as much as possible. And it felt like this was an event that could have done that. And yeah, I just felt like there wasn't a ton shown. And the ones that were shown that like seemed like passion projects and stuff like that, really excited for those people. But this was one of the first times where I felt like coming out of it, I didn't feel super excited for any of them.
I wonder if the price to entry is just too high. Because I mean, Gamescom is primarily like a show floor kind of convention, right?
Yep.
So, and if you see like pictures and videos of the show floor, I mean, it's immaculate. I mean, the sets that organizations have set up, it just feels like there's a really high price of entry compared to like a Summer Games Fest where it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's completely digital, right?
Yeah, I think so. I don't actually I don't know if there's like an in-person element to Summer Games Fest.
I think like, well, I think Xbox had an in-person thing, right? So I guess depending on the vendor, but like there's at least the option for digital shows. And I didn't watch all of Gamescom. I was pretty selective with what came up on my YouTube feed, and I was keeping an eye out for like an indie showcase, and there wasn't anything.
Yeah, and it was a lot of like individual like updates, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't really a curated like sit down like opening night live, right? Where it's like sit down and just watch an hour straight of updates and stuff like that. It was really much like selective as like things were kind of announced, and you kind of had to rely on like, for example, IGN to kind of do some of the curating for you.
And I wonder if this is now, if Gamescom is shifting to being more of an industry day. I mean, my impression of this is we didn't really get anything new, but there was more time for media to talk with different people and different organizations. Phil Spencer had quite a few lengthy interviews. Um, and the head of these development teams, they're getting interviewed. So to me, it really feels more like a media day uh, for things that are, and I think I maybe said this last week when we talked about opening night live, but it's a lot of stuff that we already knew was coming out and just more refined detail on those things. It's almost like a going gold kind of day to me.
A little bit, yeah. I definitely hear what you're saying.
So maybe that explains why there's not really so many indies there. While like I want indies to have a platform at any kind of event like this, there are a lot of options for them now. I mean, we just think about where indies were 10 years ago compared to where they are now in terms of visibility, and I would say it's immensely better. So I guess we'll see in coming years. Is there going to be a dedicated indie showcase at Gamescom, or is it just going to be like a show floor thing?
Yeah.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah,
For
and I
me,
think. Go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, please, you.
I'm going to change the subject, kind of. So
No, that's fine.
okay. So for me, kind of paying attention to Xbox stuff, this felt really important. Again, not really any new announcements, but just more and more Starfield details up into the launch window. And Phil Spencer was very open about what the rest of this generation looks like, saying that there won't be any more, or there at least no planned mid-gen upgrades, like we heard from PlayStation, or was rumored from PlayStation. I guess we didn't hear from them. So they're just staying locked in. They want to do 4 major games a year or something like that.
That was huge. That was a really like key piece, because I think he even called out that like thus far, it's been pretty. The Xbox Game Studios has been pretty like stagnant on the game front for this generation, and like he basically said like he feels they haven't been releasing enough, and so to kind of like say that 4 was the goal and now it's very much going to be the reality that's really promising.
Yeah. And I think that's what Xbox fans needed to hear. I don't think he would have said it without having reason. It's just not his MO.
Yeah, he doesn't normally just blow smoke, so
right. Hey, for better or for worse, he's very honest.
Yes, I would say so. I mean, and he's been brutally honest, like about the bad, and I think that's really important. Like you can't just try and brush it off or anything,
Well, he doesn't want another Red Ring of Death moment.
I mean, yeah, talking about it up front is, I mean, that's huge. Like it feels like such a dumb thing to praise, but yet it's so infrequent that we get it. That it's very important.
Right. So I'll say for me, as I wouldn't say I'm not a PlayStation fan, but for this generation, having really only the Xbox console was reassuring. I would say this whole event, it was nice that he was there. And in terms of things that like made my jaw kind of drop, the Forza Motorsport demo that they showed off looked nuts.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal.
It's like, and Forza Horizon 5 almost made me do this too, but it's like, do I need to get a new TV before I play this game?
Right? That's nuts. It's God. Unreal. It's unreal how like hyper realistic some of these games are able to look. Just absolutely breathtaking.
And in terms of like, this may have been before Gamescom, but just talking about how they're analyzing different vehicles to make them feel as accurate to the real thing as possible.
Yeah.
And the improvements they're making to that engine for Forza Motorsport is just crazy. It's like you didn't need to do this. I don't know what driving a Maserati feels like, but I'm glad I can at least know what it feels like to drive it with a controller.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, I think I agree. Echo what you say, or to echo what you said. This was a nice showing for Xbox. With it not being in any way, shape, or form, an Xbox event. So this was very promising. Everything out of it. Um, and I think the other cool thing is you kind of called it out. Like as a whole, the event seems to be geared towards being able to just get time with some of these like industry people and executives and designers and devs and stuff like that. And we got a lot of interview time with like Todd Howard as well. This was the first time he was at Gamescom, and he was also really candid. So it's like the Xbox way of doing things. He was talking about how he thinks that uh, Elder Scrolls 6 was announced too early, which was very funny because my immediate reaction to that was, you don't say. Like, you announced it 5 years ago and you still, or 6 years ago maybe at this point, I don't even know, but it's like, and you still don't have literally anything to show for it, outside of just the sweeping horizon and then bringing up the letters. But you live and you learn, obviously, and for him to kind of be like, full attention's on Starfield, and you know how to deliver on this epic is great, and it's great to hear somebody of his stature within a company speak on the project so, again, passionately. uh like he's full in on it, and whether he just needs to be or not, it didn't feel that way. It didn't feel like he was just saying these things to say them. um I just have, I honestly.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute, but I didn't really have anything impressive to add. The only thing I mentioned was sorry to leave you high and dry there, was that he really um before Microsoft acquired them didn't do a whole lot of speaking engagements.
Right, I feel like, yeah, I feel the same way.
But now that he can kind of tag team with Phil Spencer, it seems like he's getting more time to talk about what all Bethesda's studios are producing, and it's kind of opening the door to Bethesda a little more, because it always seemed like they were a little, they produce what they produce and you don't need to know anything else.
Yeah, kind of a closed off approach. I agree.
Right.
Yeah. um it's just great. It's good to see like a more open dialogue around things. Better for the players too, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, for the most part, most of my notes are kind of all over the place. So if you'll be so kind to as indulge me, I'm just gonna kind of go through some of the stuff in more of a quick hitter sense. Definitely don't need to really jump too deep into anything. Um, I guess the first thing, just because of how this relates to something you and I both really enjoy, basically Cyberpunk was confirmed to be getting a sequel, and that's really not necessarily that surprising, but yet at the same time it was like kind of great to hear that confirmed, that we take into consideration, obviously we've talked about it plenty, it was a bad launch for Cyberpunk, but having played it and knowing how great the game actually is, to know that it's not like this one kind of black spot on it isn't going to just ruin it. It's still going to get the full chance to breathe, because it's actually a really good game, and there's so much to it. They're doing this whole big expansion for it, showing that they're committed to it. uh you know it's great to hear that, like, confirmed it is going to live and keep going.
Yeah, I know they brought up the potential of Cyberpunk 2 in the past. Um, but like you said, I despite the fact that it became a good game, one of my favorites personally, it felt like there was just so much turmoil that maybe they would just say, okay, well, we got this to where it needed to be. We dumped a ton of resources into it, and this is it. This is Cyberpunk. This is the entire franchise. We'll add a couple more features and content updates, and that's it.
Hmm.
Um, so to hear them essentially confirm there's going to be a Cyberpunk 2, knowing what they must have learned with Cyberpunk kind of makes me, not to blow things out of proportion, but like kind of makes me think that Cyberpunk 2 will be the industry changer that the first Cyberpunk was supposed to be.
Right. I absolutely agree. And at the same time, that makes me nervous because it's like
Right.
literally the pedestal that we put the first one on. And so it's like, are we going to like, will that mess things up if we do that again? But I don't truly believe that. I do think like there's just so much promise here. And yeah, I'm with you. Like, it feels like this can be the game to change the game, if you will.
And they're not building from scratch. Like, I
Right.
imagine they're going to take a ton of resources from the first Cyberpunk, that they already have developed and refined, uh, and now build off of that and open it up like they were planning on doing for the first Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then officially come out with the special edition Xbox One X that can actually play the game this time.
Yeah. Um, man, I do, like to kind of try and like put our prediction hats on. Um, what do you think is going to be like the like concept of a second Cyberpunk? Do you think it's going to be in Night City? Do you think they have the opportunity to kind of take this like idea and just really kind of come up with like anything and like just be completely unique in the second one?
Man, I imagine they're going to have to move on from Night City. Just because, like, what more can you do with it? Like, it was already pretty big.
Right.
Um, I almost kind of wonder if it's. I think my official, like, I'm going to lock this in, even though I'm not 100% sure if this is what it will be. I think the one I want to lock in is it's going to be a prequel to 2077.
Okay.
It's going to go through like the I think it was technically a civil war,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then like the early like cyberpunk ages with modification and things like that.
So you think maybe it's
That's
going to
what I
be like a almost like a Red Dead Redemption 2 where it's the
yeah
second game but it's before the first one?
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
I think it's either going to be that or it's going to be a continuation. Um, I don't know. We can talk freely about the other endings at this point, right?
I don't see why not.
So there's an ending where like you run away to Arizona,
Mhm.
which is kind of like I guess outside of the new USA. And I'm wondering if there's going to be like a future in that storyline.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be with the same V though, in that case. Like I kind of think it'll be a different character.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see like how games try to like navigate something like that where you can make a decision that's pretty fine like final, for a story.
Yeah.
I think the best one I can think of is in Infamous, which is really going back. But like in the first Infamous, like you have a good ending and a bad ending, and like the second one literally is just like, well, the assumption is that you did this, and it's just like, and then you go on, and like you technically don't really know that ending unless you played it, or like looked it
Right.
up or whatever. And it's like it's really interesting how you like navigate something like that, and at the same time like doesn't really matter. Like like you have the freedom to do that and just say like, well, the assumption is that like you did this. We fill you in on like from the point where you made the decision to like what like then happened in between if you didn't make the decision, and then like and now here you go, you pick back up. And it's kind of neat, and, like to have sort of that freedom to like see these different paths but know that there's like the true ending um to go off of. So I would love it. I
Yeah.
would
So
love if it's the same V. I would love if it's just like a nod to like, oh, there was this guy V who did these things, or whatever, or there was this person V who had Johnny Silverhand in their head, and then you just kind of like move on, and like I would totally be fine with that too. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy to think of like what they could do, and obviously we're so far away from it.
yeah. Um yeah, I regardless, it's gonna be something really cool. Um, their world building, and that was just the big thing for me was just like being in Night City.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just had so much depth. And the story was great. The gameplay became became really good. I'm not gonna say it was great. I
Mm-hmm.
think the gameplay became really good by the end. Um so just to be able to get lost, and I kind of hope it's a totally new world, but if they had like regions of like if they built out Night City, um I think that'd be really cool as well.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm
But
really excited.
I personally would love like a prequel aspect to get more of the lore. 'Cause that was another thing about that game. Usually when there's tons of collectibles that like give you kind of glimpses into how the world got to where it is right now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll like skim them and not really go crazy about finding them, but anything I could find in Cyberpunk that was like lore based, I read and like read it until I understood and like pieced together with other stuff that I read. And I've never played a game where I was that invested.
Right? Isn't it just so crazy? Like that tells you like how good they like did that.
Yeah.
Because there's so many games that like put the effort into those sort of like collectibles and stuff like that, and yeah, it's very easy to sometimes just brush them off. Um, but yeah, other times, much like with Cyberpunk, it's fully giving you all the filler that you could possibly want. Um, yeah, so that was great, and obviously, Gamescom showed off more of Phantom Liberty, and man, we talked about that last week because it was at opening night live as well, and we're both very much in agreement on, the only way to possibly one up Keanu was to get Idris Elba, and by God, they did it. So
Mhm.
I just cannot wait. Um, a game that I keep seeing that, like, the more I see it, and I think we've talked about this as well, the more I feel like I really want to play this game, and therefore I need to now go back, is Alan Wake 2. Like, everything I've seen for this game, it just looks so good. Like, visually looks so good, and then like the story seems so interesting, and the gameplay looks really good. Um, I mean, I played Control, and I really enjoyed Control, even if it was very fucky, in terms of a narrative. And yeah, it's just completely like, we've been really getting Alan Wake 2 like left and right, I feel like, at every single event. And I think I'm gonna like bite the bullet, get the remaster of the first one so that I can play through it, and then uh, be ready to play Alan Wake 2, because it just continuously impresses me.
I think so. The remaster, I think, was only on PlayStation, right?
I think so.
Okay. I know I have the first Alan Wake, but I think it's as a 360 game that just got upscaled.
Okay.
And I've been in the same boat. I mean, so when I played Quantum Break, there were throwbacks to Alan Wake's. It's kind of supposed to be in the same universe. And ever since then, I wanted to go back and play Alan Wake, and I just haven't. And kind of in the same boat. The good news is I don't have any games coming up that I want to play, so I might just kind of jump into it. But yeah,
It looks like it might have. It might have. I don't know. I can't tell what I'm seeing here. I can't tell if it's just saying Alan Wake is on. Like, I don't know. It might only be PlayStation. I was trying to confirm that. Yeah, I mean, it seems like the world that, like, yeah, like you said with Quantum Break, how they had like, looks. I'm guessing it was like kind of small ties, but nonetheless tying it back to Alan Wake, and Control kind
yeah,
of
there
had
were
that
like
too.
there were things you could find kind of like in Cyberpunk. Like there were little lore pieces you could find. Like you could go through the whole game,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's maybe one forced dialogue that brings up Alan Wake. But other than that, like you go through the whole game and not even know.
Right.
Um, Speaking of Quantum Break and Remedy and all this, I don't know if they announced this before, but Alan Wake 2 is going to have live action scenes in it.
Yeah, and I was that was one of the things that I was like trying to figure out when they showed it. I think during opening night live, because I think it was then that they showed a trailer for it, and they were kind of cutting between live action and the game, and I was like, well, this is just a cool way of like doing a trailer, and
Yeah,
I wasn't sure. I was like, that's not going to be like in the game, and yeah, the confirmation of that is very unique and very cool.
I'm pretty excited about that. That's how so Quantum Break was that way too.
Okay.
Um, Pretty much all of the long cut scenes in Quantum Break were live action, with the actual actors that
Right.
the characters were modeled after. And I thought it was really well done. And it you I feel like your natural inclination is to be like, oh, I feel like that's gonna pull me out. Like everything should be animated and
Right.
um but it did not. It did not do that for me in Quantum Break, and obviously that was a much older game.
That's Yeah, that's awesome. Like it's great to hear that one they did it well in that. And I'm trying to think of Control. I think Control had like weird imagery stuff with like real people, but it was never like a full on like cutscene. I don't think.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to think back. It's been a while since I've played it.
And this
Um,
looks like it's even more integrated in Alan Wake too.
yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, this is like again, I haven't played. I've played a game from this like developer, and so I kind of like feel like I'm a part of it, but I haven't played the original one. And I just constantly hear Benji Sales was like tweeting all about it. He said that he just played through the remaster again and was talking about how it's like one of his favorite stories in games. And so like I keep hearing this, and then I see Alan Wake 2 and see how like great it looks and everything. And yeah, I'm bought in without really having any stake in it yet.
Yeah.
So very very promising. And I think everything they've done for that game has been really well done in terms of like marketing and stuff like that. To kind of turn around and not give praise, I don't know if you saw it, but the RoboCop game, there's like I don't know 15 minutes of gameplay that IGN was able to like showcase, and when it was like first announced, I was kind of like, oh, like I definitely want to keep an eye on this, see how this, you know, looks. Might be a fun game. It looks so disappointing to me. The RoboCop's voice, first off, is just super fucking annoying. It sounds like somebody typed it out on a sticky note and then like highlighted it and like hit like text to speech. It's so
Wow.
bad. It's so annoying. And the gameplay just looks like this is maybe isn't fair, but it literally looks like at least old Call of Duty campaign gameplay, where it's just kind of like the stakes have never been lower and you can just really run to the checkpoint. Like that's kind of the feeling I was getting from it. And it just like nothing about it was like nothing about it excited me. It did not move the needle for me at all. I really think it looks bad, frankly, and I think it was a pretty poor showcase for it. Uh, that's just in my opinion, but that was like something that also was kind of a disappointment from all the announcements.
You just brought back a really deep memory of mine of like hollow first person shooters in the early like PS4 era where you could literally just run to a checkpoint.
Yeah,
I completely forgot that that was like what felt like a mechanic. It's like you can stay here and shoot as much as you want, or
you see that little
I
green
mean,
dot? Go to that.
yeah, exactly. Well, and there was the mechanic too, where like if you didn't move, then like endless enemies would just keep spawning.
Right.
So you were incentivized to like keep moving. That's strange.
Yeah, yeah. I would recommend going to watch that if for no other reason than to just understand exactly what I'm saying. You know.
I'd have a laugh.
Um, and then trying to be semi-selective here. Really cool Lord of the Rings: The Return to Moria game. This was announced at some point. I know we've talked about it in passing before, and we kind of said I think like gives like Deep Rock Galactic vibes almost. Um, but what's really cool is so I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. Both myself and my wife Shelby. Shelby's a huge Lord of the Rings nerd. I mean, she can name characters and I can't. Um, but Gimli, one of the main characters of the Fellowship, the dwarf, he's in the game, the character, and they got John Rhys Davies, the person who plays Gimli in the movies, to voice him in the game. And I just think that's
Nice.
really cool. And overall, like, seems like a fairly chill, like, mining, fight some enemies type of game. Definitely think Shelby and I are going to uh, be playing this when it comes out because it takes place in the Lord of the Rings universe, and also because it seems like just the type of game for us.
Right.
So I thought that was really cool. Not too much else to really talk about there. And then this game, Project Mugen, I think is I didn't hear it pronounced, so I'm just guessing to the best of my ability. This was getting circulated a decent bit online because the gameplay trailer for it showed off some Marvel Spider-Man ass traversal where you're literally like
I saw
swinging through a
that.
city. You're doing
I
the like
saw that.
the wall run, the like landing and like shooting off. And honestly, I'm in. I'm like, okay, it's gonna be a free to play game. Um,
Good artist borrow, great artist steal.
right? I mean, like I literally put my note looks solid if for nothing else than the rip off traversal straight from Marvel Spider-Man. So,
If it
um,
works, it works.
right. So, I might be keeping an eye on that one. Two more things. Akatori. It's like a Metroidvania. The art style is really cool for it. I really thought that looked neat. And also I was just getting the feeling from watching the like trailer for it. Kind of getting this feeling in me that like I should actually go back and give Hollow Knight a try again, but Hollow Knight was just so frustrating, and I know that's just how Metroidvanias can be. Um, so I'm like really back and forth now on going back and trying out Hollow Knight because Akatori looked really solid and was just giving me Hollow Knight vibes. Um, and I know you like Metroidvanias, so
I sure do.
potentially one for you to. I wonder where Metroidvanias get their name.
Couldn't tell you.
Potentially
A
from.
completely unrelated note. Did we see there's some this past year? Did we see there's a new Castlevania game coming out?
That does ring a bell.
I'm curious as to why we haven't seen anything about that. What
That
if that was just a
is,
far off release?
yeah, that could be. Or, I mean, I know Tokyo Game Show's coming up in September, so
Oh,
maybe we'll see some stuff there. You know, um,
we should go to Tokyo Game Show.
dude, I really want to get to Japan, so I'd be down. I just don't know if I can make it work. I don't know if I can swing that this year.
Huh.
um,
Try.
I lied. I now have two more things. Real quick, Billy Bust Up it's a musical game. The trailer for it actually looked like pretty charming and fairly interesting, and I'm curious what the musical aspect is, if it's just that songs are constantly being sung, or if it's a type of game where you have to like play to the beat as well. If it's
Like
a
Hi-Fi Rush.
Yeah, if it's a game where you have to play to the beat, I'm a little less interested, just because I love the concept of those games and I can watch them, but I just don't think I have it in me to be able to play them or play them well. I know Hi-Fi Rush made it that there was like basically a tone deaf, no rhythm mode where like you could make it work. Um, but the concept that this is specifically called a musical game makes me think that it's like songs are being sung in cutscenes and stuff like that. And I'm a sucker. I'm a slut for a good musical, and I think
Heck yeah.
more video games should be musicals. So definitely want to keep my eye on that one. It's like a platformer type, which is why I'm curious if it's like you have to platform to the beat as well. But um, yeah, I'm interested to see more there. And then last, finally, Black Myth Wukong and Lies of P both kind of give off those like Souls born type vibes. And I think both of those actually look really solid, really promising. I think a lot of people are going to, with how big Elden Ring was. Although I don't know, maybe Armored Core is turning people off. That's been really funny to watch this week. But I think
Have people not been liking Armored Core?
I feel a lot of people have been. There's been like the great what do they called it? The great uninstalling, the mass uninstalling. I don't know, something like that, because people are getting to the first boss and failing and not having a good time because of it. And it's been really funny. And it's like, I mean, I don't know. I think we talked about when Armored Core was announced that like I think both you and I were like, okay, this isn't really a Soulsborne game. Like it's from FromSoft, but like you're literally in a mech. It's going to be, I'm sure it's going to have some unforgiving combat like the Soulsborne, but at the same time, it's very different. And this is definitely not for, this is for fans of Armored Core and people who want to get into Armored Core. This isn't for people who liked Elden Ring and now see FromSoft and are just like, this is just the natural progression, because I think it does play very different.
One of the
Go ahead. No.
One of the few things I watched live from Gamescom this year was a gameplay of Armored Core from one of the heads of development at FromSoft.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, this game will play very similar to like the Soulsborne games, but now you can move vertically. And I said, oh yes, exactly what we needed. A hard game, but now you can be hard in 4D.
Yeah, exactly. I get what they're saying. Like it plays like it to a degree, right? But it's just like at the same time, no, it doesn't. Like it is very different.
They were basically explaining that combat should play relatively similar. It's just like platforming and traversal now. There's another dimension you need to consider.
Yeah. And I guess the idea is that like you need to, and this is the case for Souls games as well, but like you need to pick a build and you need to commit to it. And I think a lot of people have been having trouble with that. And like so many people have basically been like falling off because of how hard and it's like, it's what you should expect from software
Right.
at this point. And I think Elden Ring really lowered a lot of people's defenses. And as somebody who has gone back and tried to play like other games instead of just jumping into Elden Ring, which if you're going to jump into one, that's the one to do it, I guess. But like I played through Demon Souls and it's very challenging. And then I tried to jump into Dark Souls and it kicked my ass. And like I am straight up not having a good time. And like, that's what the game is. And, I think, like I said, I think Elden Ring lowered people's guard and they went into Armored Core, and Armored Core just absolutely messed them up. But with that said, I'm guessing Black Myth Wukong and Lies of P won't be as unforgiving as we've gotten used to with actual Soulsborne games, but the style of them is very much like you move through an area, you get to a boss. That boss unlocks something for you, you move into the next area. And I think they both look very, very promising, and I'm excited to to see how they're received when they come out coming up.
I thought with Lies of P, I wasn't really interested in that game until, and this may have been Summer Games Fest. I don't even think it was Gamescom. But they showed like the dialogue options for it and how important your dialogue is for how you progress in the game. I thought was super interesting and adds a lot of depth. So that kind of, I don't know if I'll play Lies of P, but it definitely has my attention.
I just feel like it definitely promises. I won't say like the Souls games don't have a story. They do. It's very much like you have to do all the work in terms of the story and figuring it out and finding the lore and stuff like that. Whereas I feel like the narrative of Lies of P is going to be very much in your face and very obvious. And honestly, sometimes that's, I'd say most times that's better. I think there's something to be said about like needing to explore the world and figure things out. But outside of like the first cutscene of Demon Souls, you're really not like told anything until you get to the final cutscene, and everything in between is what you are making of it and like what you are piecing together and what you think is right, but nothing I feel like is ever actually confirmed. And you're just suddenly fighting a big monster, and it's like you can either figure it out and be like, oh, that's this guy, or you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing, but this is clearly the thing I need to do to get to the next thing. And yeah, like again, that's cool and it's great to like kind of put that on the player to figure out, but also, you know, sometimes people don't want that. Sometimes people just want the story delivered exactly to them. And I think that's kind of the great thing of like this game that's going to be similar to a Souls game, but really give you a strong story up front. So I'm excited for those. That was it for me. I know that was a kind of a lot of different things to touch on, but those were kind of the things that I had notes about. I mean, overall, I think Gamescom was, I think there was a lot of neat stuff to come out of it. I just don't know how like passionately I feel about, you know, wow, this was all so amazing. And, you know, maybe there's just some stuff I haven't been able to get around to checking out quite yet. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, kind of just left with a feeling.
And like for me personally, I think that's okay.
Yeah, and
I guess it's hard because we went like so many months without really any news other than Activision Blizzard stuff.
right. And so it felt good to finally have like an event to talk about.
Yeah.
And yeah, the expectations were perfectly set for like opening night live, right? Where it was like it's gonna be a lot of updates, not too many world premieres, stuff like that. And it's like I know that's what I was told, and I know it delivered.
You would have expected one,
right? And it's like
Where's
I know
Kojima?
you delivered, and yeah, where is he? It's his birthday. Bring him on. Yeah. So it delivered exactly what it was supposed to. And I think it just comes down to personal preference. Somebody might have watched all this Gamescom stuff and every single thing was just an absolute hit for them. And much is the case of anybody who only plays Call of Duty, Gamescom sucked this year. So, you know, obviously it all comes down to opinion, personal preference in the end. For me personally, as somebody who I think is normally fairly positive about events, this was one that for once wasn't a huge banger. But I do think it was a great show or a good showing overall. And I think there's some really good promise in here despite that. Amen. Like I said, Tokyo Game Show is I think the end of September, so I'm guessing PlayStation will have some stuff there. There was nothing at Gamescom. They also might be having, I guess it's rumored, they might be having their own event coming up here shortly, maybe in September. So we'll see.
My bold prediction for TGS is Phil Spencer is going to be there with Hideo Kojima, and that's how they're going to win over the Japanese players.
Oh my god! They announced the game that he's finally working on for them.
Right, at least like the idea of it. Like it can be an abstract. Like, do you remember the beginning trailer for Death Stranding, and everyone's like, I
Yes,
don't know what the fuck that was, but it was brilliant.
but it was Kojima.
You're right.
Exactly.
Like even something like that. It needs to have. I could leave Tokyo Game Show knowing just as much as I knew before Tokyo Game Show, but having seen something from Kojima.
Yeah, I could definitely see something like that happening too. So, that's great. I love that. You bring up Death Stranding. The first trailer for that was really a "what the fuck is this" sort of thing, and it was a complete cinematic and did not tell you anything except for Guillermo del Toro holding a fucking weird ass fetus, and
Yep.
it was just like, okay.
It's like, how could I have not looked back at that and said, yes, it's a delivery game?
Oh my god. So I love Kojima. What a guy.
Stupid.
Um yeah, so hopefully we get some great announcements and stuff like that from Tokyo Game Show. Things should be paced out pretty well from here till then. Yeah, I guess probably not next week. It would be the following week. We'll finally have some kind of like first reactions or more public reactions for Starfield. Next week we should have at least the general review reactions. So kind of look forward to hearing more there. Also, we didn't get a chance to talk about it this week, but I would really love to kind of talk about the PlayStation Portal.
Okay.
That was like fully announced last week, right after you and I finished recording. Was like the PlayStation blog post about it. And so I would actually really love to dive into that a bit. I have some thoughts, obviously, as someone who would potentially buy it. And I think it would be a fun topic. And I know we'll be a couple of weeks removed at this point talking about it next week, but I think we can pencil that in at the very least as a fun little topic to discuss.
Let's do it.
Cool. Other than that, I think that's it. So thank you all so much for listening, as always. If you could do us a favor and leave us a rating or a review wherever you listen, it'd be greatly appreciated. As a reminder, we do have a YouTube channel, so you can go over there, leave a comment. I guess this week, let us know what your thoughts were on Gamescom. Was there a game that you were particularly excited to see, or anything that was kind of a disappointment? Silksong, Hollow Knight Silksong wasn't at it, and people are very upset about that, so maybe you are as well. I know I talked about Hollow Knight for 2 seconds earlier, so leave that as a comment if you want. But as always, thank you so much. If you could do us a favor as well and just share this with a friend, share with somebody who maybe was at Gamescom or was on their couch watching all the Gamescom announcements, and tune in next week. We'll talk to you then.